A rainbow trout can look at a 2D photograph on a screen and identify it as a fish rather than a chair, a star, or another geometric shape. And that was demonstrated in a 2021 study at INRAE in Rennes, France. And the question behind it was whether trout process visual information as isolated stimuli or as meaningful categories. Researchers trained 15 rainbow trout on an operant conditioning device, a self-feeder positioned in front of a screen displaying visual stimuli, and fish activated a trigger to indicate their choice between two simultaneously presented images in a two alternative forced choice design. Before any discrimination testing began, fish first had to learn to operate the device itself. A habituation phase where they were requiring between 3 and 15 sessions of 10 trials each. 6 of the 15 fish never completed that phase and were excluded from testing entirely. The 9 that reached stable performance took between 30 and 150 trials to get there. The learning criteria was 7 or more correct responses out of 10 trials across 3 consecutive sessions, a 70% accuracy threshold before advancing to the next stage. Stimuli came in 4 stages of increasing difficulty. Trout were tested against blue shapes, then a black star, then photographs of objects drawn from a pool of 60, then photographs of other fish species drawn from a separate pool of 60. Every test image was one the fish had never seen during training, confirming the fish were generalizing a concept rather than memorizing specific images. 5 of 5 correctly distinguished conspecific photographs from abstract shapes. 4 of 5 distinguished them from objects. When the comparison became photographs of other fish species, discrimination failed across the group. The fish were running a visual category, fish shape, rather than identifying a species or an individual. And that category was precise enough to exclude chairs and stars, but broad enough to include fish that weren't trout. The boundary of what the fish could and couldn't distinguish is now locatable, and it sits at the species level rather than anything more refined than that. That places trout's visual cognition between 2 established benchmarks. Cleaner wrasse passed a mere self-recognition test in 2019, which required individual-level visual resolution, precise enough to distinguish themselves from another. Trout operated a level below that. A purely reflexive visual system produces only stimulus response triggering and can't generalize to images it hasn't encountered before. Trout generalized correctly to entirely new photographs, applying a learned concept to stimuli they'd never seen during training, and that's a meaningful distinction between category learning and reflex. Where a visual system stops is as informative as where it works. Trout visual categorization stops at the species boundary, and that's a precise measurable fact about how this brain organizes what it sees.